All right, Shalom. You reached the He Prayed channel. My name is Isaac Mawath. But first and foremost, I want to say, Call Halagim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, 71319, aka GMS, where I learned this truth from, and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people will come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. Says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. As always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. Uh, this video is going to be about the chariots of Israel, who the world inly calls UFOs or UAPs. This is from metro.co.uk. It says, could interstellar object 3I Atlas have slammed on brakes in Black Swan event? Because, initial reports were stating that it was traveling over 130,000 miles per hour. It says the interstellar space rock was spotted in July and is expected to pass back out of our solar system and into outer space, unless there's someone at the controls who might have other ideas. Before you start panic buying toilet paper, we should point out that his theories are not widely accepted by other space researchers. In fact, they've been made to the annoyance of a lot of people who actually work on comets. Astrophysicist Dr. Mark Norris told Metro, he says, but they are nevertheless making headlines because Dr. Avi Loeb, a controversial Harvard astrophysicist, has claimed the latest images could show it deployed braking thrust to intentionally slow down a Black Swan event. While the idea of this comet being an alien spacecraft is far-fetched, Dr. Loeb says we shouldn't discount the possibility of a Black Swan event when something extremely unlikely with a severe impact happens, defying past observations and predictions. Like, say, 3I Atlas being a Trojan horse sent to our solar system from another civilization for nefarious purposes. And this is what the elite are conveying to these people to speak, to get you people to fight against Yahweh Shah on his return. It says Dr. Loeb has been following its path and previously speculated that it might do something unexpected right around now when it is hidden behind the sun. It's not the first time we have theorized the alien origin of a comet. There have only been 3 comets identified as coming from outside our solar system, and Dr. Loeb also thought the first one, Maumu, showed signs of being a thin craft pushed by the reflection of sunlight when it was found in 2017. University of Lancashire lecturer Dr. Norris said it's clear Oumuamua was not a spaceship, and he has not seen any proof so far that 3I Atlas is behaving abnormally either. It says a 30 to 40% likelihood that 3I Atlas does not have a fully natural origin. In a blog post earlier this month, Dr. Loeb said he put the chance of the comet not being fully natural at 30 to 40%. He later updated his blog to say that latest photographs suggest 3I Atlas tail of melting ice and rock began to point away from the sun in September instead of towards it as it had done in July and August. It says in the blog post, Dr. Loeb wrote, my colleague Adam Hibbert pointed out that if the object is an alien spacecraft slowing down and the anti-tail is breaking thrust, then this change from anti-tail to tail will be entirely expected near perihelion, the point in orbit closest to the sun. In that case, the transition will constitute a technosignature in the form of an unexpected phenomenon indicative of controlled maneuvering, possibly with the intention of achieving a bound heliocentric orbit between Mars and Jupiter's orbits, a fairly rare thing in comets. This made headlines, but Dr. Norris told Metro there are far more pedestrian explanations. He acknowledged that it is rare for a comet to have a tail pointing towards the sun, but it is seen in solar system comets occasionally. You have to have the right mixture of things like how fast the comet's spinning, the material the comet's made of, and the size of the dust grains that are being emitted. He said that it can happen when a comet is very heavy and dusty. The front of the comet is the hottest, as it is the closest to the sun. So this is where most particles are ejected. Which, Esau, he don't know. He just speculated. But then he'll say that he's the expert. It says normally the pressure of sunlight pushes the tail back behind the comet, but the particles are heavy enough this may not happen. As you get closer and closer, the solar emission of the flux from the sun increases until eventually the tail starts to get pushed back and joins the rest of the tail. Dr. Norris says, so the fact that it has an anti-tail is not shocking. Has even written a paper that, as far as I'm aware, correctly explains why it happens, and it has nothing to do in its explanation with aliens. So why he lists it as proof of being aliens? You have to ask the guy. What about the way it's moving? Dr. Norris added that the comet didn't look like it was braking in any case, as it was speeding up because the gravity of the sun is pulling it closer. And it was in full view rather than doing something where it was harder to observe. One other slightly unusual thing about it is that it has not shown any signs of non gravitational acceleration yet and is moving exactly as it would be predicted to. When a comet is pushing out a lot of gas, it tends to give it some thrust, which changes its orbit slightly. But if it's a very heavy comet body, it takes a lot of thrust to push it out of the way, which is probably the reason this hasn't been detected. Dr. Norris said, that's not particularly shocking, he added. It's interesting, but it's not like proof of anything. It's normal. That's them downplaying. Campaign to track 3I Atlas. The International Asteroid Warning Network has started tracking the path of the comet. something that Dr. Loeb said would be evidence that it is seen as a threat. But Dr. Norris was again skeptical, saying it was more likely they were doing so for training and scientific purposes. Nobody will be very happy if we build a system to track hazardous asteroids and it doesn't do anything until the one time we need it to. He thinks that he thinks the really exciting thing about these interstellar objects is that one day we may be able to intercept one of them and physically see what another star system is made from and how typical ours is. Given that 3I Atlas could be from a star system which formed billions of years before our own, when the galaxy had seen fewer stars living and dying, we would expect its chemical composition to be different to rocks in our own solar system, and it could behave differently as a result. If if it's not visible right now because it's behind the sun and too bright for telescopes to see it, but we will get another glimpse from November 2nd when the European Space Agency's JUICE spacecraft trains instruments on its way to studying Jupiter. According to NASA, it will reach perihelion, its closest point to the sun, around October 30th, when it will be just inside the orbit of Mars. It will reappear on the other side of the sun by early December, when we should be able to see it again from Earth, and will pass reasonably close to Jupiter, but never within the Earth, but never within the orbit of Earth. It says Dr. Norris said it will be visible until next year, and then will head out of sight toward the far edges of the solar system, then out of it completely within the next decade, and it will continue out in the deep space for potentially millions more years. Can I see it in the sky? If you have a reasonable amateur telescope towards the end of November, it will be visible again in the early morning around 6 a.m., just before the sun rises. As time goes on, its separation from the sun will get bigger and bigger, so it will become visible earlier and earlier in the night. Which this is a sensual perspective of spiritual things. So these are accounts of Yahweh putting the spirit on men of Israel, to send spies before they take over a land. This is the mind state of a man of war. This is Numbers chapter 13, verse 16. It says, "These are the names of the men which Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Oshea, the son of Nun, Jehoshua, and Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get you up this way southward, and go up into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many." So the Most High put the Spirit on Mashah, which is Moses in the Hebrew, which means to be drawn out, to send spies, right, to scout the land, you know, what it is, the manner of people, whether they're strong or weak, or few or many. Same thing that Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua is instructing the angels before the main battle forces of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua come to the earth in which he made. Verse 19, "And what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds, and what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, meaning if it can, produce food, or is it a struggling land that produces food? It says, whether they be wood therein or not, and be ye of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first the first ripe grapes. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob, as men come to Hamath. You know, another account. This is Joshua chapter 2, verse 1. And Yahushua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, go view the land, even Jericho. And they went and came into a harlot's house named Rahab, and lodged there. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Yasharallah to search out the country. So there were spies sent to search out the country, just as Yahweh Shemiyah Shai is sending spies to search out uh, the prey, which is America, Esau. Verse 3, and the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thy house, for they be come to search out all the country. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said, thus there came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. So she didn't know where they were, is what she said. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I would not pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate. And before they were laid down, she came up onto the roof. Slakia, she came up onto them upon the roof, and she said unto the men, I know that Yahweh have given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us. So this is the same spirit that the Most High is implementing here in America, man. There's even a lot of these heathens that know that their time is up, and that, so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous are the next to be rulers. And with others, terror is falling upon them because they don't know what the hell 3-Eye Atlas really is, man, or any of these UFOs or UAPs that even their Hellfire missiles can't do any damage toward. It says, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you, right? Even with these chariots, they think it's aliens coming back, which that's madness. You know, it's gonna drive fear because they don't know what's gonna happen. They don't know what they're here for. They're here for destruction and deliverance of the knees that didn't bow, to this damn devil. Verse 10, it says, for we have heard how Yahweh dried up the water of the Red Sea for you. So these were accounts that were told among the nations, because remember, the Most High, his name brought fear to these nations because of these certain feats, right? It says, when you came out of Martazarium, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt. They got scared. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. And that's what Yahweh Shah is going to bring. Did it not say, yet durst fight? But he has to put the spirit in him. You know, for Yahweh, your power, he is the power in heaven above and in earth beneath. But now, Yahweh Baal Shem Yahweh Shah has to reestablish that name upon earth, man. Because, people have forgot. It says, now therefore I pray you or beg you, swear unto me by Yahweh, since I have showed you kindness, that ye will also show kindness unto my father's house and give me a true token, and that ye will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the man answered her, our life for yours, if ye utter not this our business. And it shall be, when Yahweh have given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee, which they kept that word. This is the Danites seek territory. This is Judges chapter 18, verse 1. In those days there was no king in Yashar'allah, and in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them a inheritance to dwell in. For unto that day all their inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Yashar'allah. And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coast, men of valor, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land. So the Most High is constantly putting the spirit in his people and in his messengers, the angels, to always spy out a land before they send military forces. It says, and to search it. And they said unto them, go search the land. Who, when they came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they lodged there. When they were by the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man, the Levite, and they turned in thither and said unto him, who brought thee hither? And what makest thou in this place? And what hast thou here? And he said unto them, thus and thus dealeth Micah with me, and have hired me, and I am his priest. It says, and they said unto him, ask counsel, we pray thee, of the Most High, that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous. It says, and the priest said unto them, go in peace, before Yahweh is your way wherein ye go. It says, then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless, And what are the angels going to observe when they observe this place? Carelessness and confusion. It says, after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure, and there was no magistrate in the land, or law, right, that might put them to shame in anything. And they were far from the Zidonians, and had no business with any man. And they came unto their brethren to Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brethren said unto them, what say ye? And they said, arise, that we may go up against them. For we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And are ye still? Be not slothful to go and to enter to possess the land, right? So these are spirits of war, right? Because why? The Heavenly Father is a man of war. This is Exodus chapter 15, verse 3. He says, Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. And of course, as father, like son, right? So Yahweh Shah, he also is a man of war. Wouldn't you not teach your son the leader of your bloodline, you know, uh, things of war, if you were a man of war, well, that's the same thing that the Most High has instilled into his son, the first and the last spirit he created, Yahweh Shah, man, to be a man of war. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8. Um, Now, this is dealing with wisdom. It says, I'll start at verse 14, but the point is in 15. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 14. I shall set the people in order. And right now, even pursuing the Ezekiel the 37th chapter, the Most High is pouring a spirit to set his people in order. You know, starting with the elect men that are the prophets that are going to go out there and be about Yahweh Shah's business no matter what. It says, and the nations shall be subject unto me. So Yahweh Shah are going to conquer the nations and put them into slavery as our inheritance. Verse 15, it says, horrible times, like Esau. Esau, so-called white man, is a horrible tyrant, shall be afraid. And they're afraid right now, even dealing with the 3-eye atlas. They don't know what it is. Even dealing with the Hellfire missiles that didn't destroy the what they call a UAP, which is really a chariot of Yasharallah. It says, when they do but hear of me, when they just hear of Yahweh Ba'ashim Shah, I shall be found good among the multitude and valiant in war. So that was the point. The Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashim Shah, is going to be found to be valiant in war. You know, um, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 18. I'm going to just start read 15. It says, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 18, verse 15. It says, thy almighty word leapt down from heaven. You know, through what? Through the angels working the minds of men, you know, to go out there and prophesy and utter the words that Yahweh Ba'ashim Shah purposes to speak to the world in order to activate the minds and spirits of his elect to stand upon their feet and to call upon them, you know, and them meaning Yahweh, Yahweh Shah, giving them their name or names. It says, out of thy royal throne, as a fierce man of war, into the midst of a land of destruction. So Yahweh Ba'ashim Shah is a fierce man of war, man, right? And he likens that even onto his word, into the midst of a land of destruction, which that land is soon to be American, and brought thy unfeigned commandment as a sharp sword, and standing up filled all things with death, and it touched the heaven, but it stood upon the earth. Then suddenly visions of horrible dreams troubled them sore, and terrors came upon them unlooked for, you know. But the main point was in verse 15. So I'm going to go to co-pilot, and these are scriptures that we already read, I think. Biblical examples of spying before war, Numbers 13:1 and 2. And Yahweh Shem Shah spake unto Moses, or I should say, Yahweh Shah spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Yasha'Allah. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them. This is a direct command from the Most High to Moses to scout the land before the Israelites attempt conquest, right? So, these are the Most High's mannerisms and spirit, right? Joshua 2:1, we went through. And Joshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go, view the land, even Jericho. Joshua, which is Yahweh Shah in the Hebrew, sent spies to assess Jericho's defenses before launching an attack. Joshua 14:7, 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of Yahweh, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to espy out the land, and I brought him word again as it was in my heart. Caleb reflects on his mission as one of the original 12 spies. 1 Chronicles 19:3, 2 Samuel 10:3. These verses describe suspicion of espionage when David sends envoys to Ammon. The Ammonite leaders accuse them of spying to prepare for war. So you always go out and spy the land. That's why even Donald Trump mentioned sending the CIA, which is the Central Intelligence Agency, to do covert missions in Venezuela. This is apocryphal, echoes indirect. While the apocrypha doesn't contain a direct command to spy before war like Numbers 13, it does reflect strategic reconnaissance and warfare. So real quick, in Etma Online Reconnaissance, now it says preliminary examination or survey, specifically a examination of a territory or enemy position with a view to directing military operations. And that's what the Heavenly Father is doing, man. He's sending spies or spy ships in order to direct military operations, right? This is Judith chapter 10, verse 10 through 13. Paraphrasing, Judith enters the enemy camp under the guise of betrayal, gathering intelligence before her decisive act. Though not a formal spy mission, it's tactical infiltration. First Maccabees chapter 5, verse 4. Judah's Maccabees searched out the enemies in Gilead before attacking, implying reconnaissance. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it on this. I was gonna go into the chariots of Israel, but I think I should keep this video focused on the fact that Yahweh Shem Shah sends spies right before he sends the military, which this video was inspired by Elder Apostle Tahar on his take of what Three-Eye Atlas indeed is. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified, and I'm going to say shalom.